now that we have the device statically configured, we can go ahead and configure our authentication policies. So just to go back to the switch, and I'm going to quickly show you the configuration again of the port. Right here, we have, for the order, we have .1x and map enable. Okay, so, and we also have map enable right here. So basically, ISE will trying to, the switch will trying to perform .1x first, and if that fails, it will fail over to map, which is what we'll be doing, since none of our devices here are capable of .1x. But before we look at the authentication activity, we first need to create an authentication policy. Okay, so by default, Cisco already has a sample of map authentication, so we're gonna duplicate that, and we'll call it LM wired map. Just trying to be descriptive as possible. It's wire map. Okay, for allow protocol, let's leave it at default, although I believe all it needs is just a host lookup. There we go. Enable. Expand that, and we definitely want to do internal endpoints because that's where the MAC address is stored. But for the profile device like IP phone and access point that we did not manually configure, obviously ISE is not going to be able to find that MAC address anywhere. So instead of rejecting the request, what we want to do when it comes to user not found or the MAC address not found is to go ahead and continue. So it said, basically, if ISE cannot, you're telling ISE if it cannot find the MAC address, we just tell it to pass the authentication anyway, and then we are going to control access from the authorization policies. Okay, so that's that. And then let's save. Okay, so now that we have the authentication policies, we can move on to the authorization policies. But even before we can configure the policy itself, we need to create all the components that it requires or that make up the policies. So that will be under policy elements. First, we'll do, I don't really think we need to create conditions, so let's go ahead and do the results. So first we will do the DACL or a DACL, downloadable ACL for access point right here, and we want to limit the access point to only access the wireless LAN controller. So for authorization, under downloadable ACL, we go add, here let's call it LM WLC only. And every time you configure downloadable ACLs, you need to make sure that there's no typo. So with that, I already have the access list prepare. So just to make sure, I don't have to type that out. I make sure everything is correct. So let's go through this real quick. For access point, we want to allow DSCP for it to get an IP. Again, it's something that's you probably want to include in all of your access lists. So just simply allow DSCP IP to be obtained through DSCP, and to allow DNS access. And now this is where we only allow it to only be able to talk to the wireless LAN controller at the IP 32.104, and then we just deny everything else. Okay, so submit. We also want to create another DACL called LM permit all, and all you need for this is permit IP any. Okay, sometimes when you troubleshoot and trying to figure out why the switch does not receive the DACL, although the authentication passed already, and for the most part there's some kind of typo or syntax error in the ACL itself, so you need to come back and check on this. Okay, now that we have the DACL, we can create an authorization profile. Let's go add, and this one is going to be for access points, so we'll call LMAP, and the DACL is going to be LMWLC only. And the reason that we have, when you create the DACL, you have to type in the whole access list in full, because for DACL, the whole ACL will be pushed to the switch, and the switch will use that to apply to the particular interface. So here, DACL name, we have LM ACL only. Okay, scroll down, attributes LM ACL only, submit. And we're going to create one more for the permit all. A generic LM permit all with the DACL that points to the one that we created, which is LM permit all. Okay, save. Now that we have authorization profile configured, we can go back and finish the authorization policies. So here we're going to create a brand new rule on top and call that LM wired map for AP. And condition is going to be based on groups that we configured earlier. So Endpoint Identity Group and Profile. And we have a Cisco access point right here. Okay, there's no other special conditions that we need. And then for the permissions, we're going to choose the authorization profile that we just configured LMAP. Okay, done. You can duplicate below. And this one is, let's just say it's a generic map, because we're going to have both Cisco phone, so the identity group endpoint, then we have Cisco IP phone, and then we're going to add one more for our custom OS, operating system, that we created. So right here, LM unknown OS. This is for the statically configured MAC address. Okay, again, no condition, and then we will do a permit all, LM permit all. Done. Save. Now that we have all that configured, let's go back to the switch and let's take a look at the latest status on the port. Let's say 14. Command for that is, let's see, show authentication. You see with the question marks, there's a couple options you can do. You can do interface, so let's go through that one by one since I've really showed you this command before. And let's deal with port 14. You can see, so for port 14, there's the MAC address, so it just tells you the different authentication sessions that's the port is seeing. Okay, let's see what other command that we can do. We can do method, and let's see if you want to do map. Looks like the map has already succeeded for 2 of them, for 14 and 15. That's why it said method map. Status is success. So it's just a quick command or a quick way to identify what device has passed the map. Although it said map, it's actually profiling actually relies on map. So, and then you can also do like .1x, but we're not doing that right now. So there's nothing to show on that, and the command to look into the specific port is session and then interface. Okay, this tells you exactly what is going on. So interface MAC address that is being authenticated with the IP of the device. Okay, status is authorization success already. And you can see the ACL, although it said ACS, but it's ISE. They're as close relationship. So DACL has already been pushed out to the switch, and the name is right here, LMWLC only. And since we have 2 methods enabled, .1x obviously fail, and map succeeded. Same thing for the phone. We have a success. Let's take a look at the PC and see where we are with the PC. That one still say authorization failed, so we have to see what's going on with that. Okay, you can also do a debug. Let me show you the debug authentication all. And let's say we let me shut down the access point. So shut, and then no shut, and that looks like I need a locking console. And we are seeing some activities for the port 19 as well. This is where our PC is located. And port 14 looks like it just came up, so it would have to go through map authentication one more time. As if you look at session interface, so you can see 14 map is running right now. So right here, 14, let's see. So there's a lot of information right now from 19. Just trying to see if 14 is done. Looks like 14 map is still running. While that's running on the background, we can go back to ISE and let's take a look at our authentication report. Okay, so it looks like access point just passed the authentication. So right here, sending auth success to map. Let me disable. Let's see if there's anything interesting on 14. So right here, authorization succeeded for client. I was looking for the message that tells you about .1x fail, and then it fell over to map. Let's see. Yeah, but anyhow, you can use this particular here map changing state from running to auth success. You can use this particular debug to troubleshoot your issue. So go back to ISE. Here, our access point succeeded. Looks like we're still having a little issue with the PC, so let's do a quick troubleshooting and see why we're having that. Said rejected per authorization profile. So we have to go back and see, make sure we have the correct MAC address though. So let's click on that. Let's go back and check on our statically configured MAC address. Okay, I don't see that in the list, looks like. So it's 8E6F5D. 8E6F5D looks like it's this one, although I thought we did a static assign already. Looks like it got changed back. So this time let's do a unknown static and do LM unknown OS. Okay, so let's save that and let's wait for the next authentication request to come in. It looks like, what do we have here? While we're waiting for that, let's take a look at the one that passed already, which is the phone. So right here, identity group is the Cisco IP phone as part of the profile. And every time you see identity under identity column, if it shows up as the MAC address, you know that is some kind of MAC address bypass authentication. So let's click on that for IP phone. Let's go through and see if there's anything interesting to look at. You can see authorization profile, I got the permit all. Okay, and on the switch, we do show auth session interface phone, I believe it's 15. It already has the DACL downloaded. If you do show access list, you can actually see the content of the DACL, just like how we configure under the DACL on ISE. So permit IP any, and you also have LM ACL only. Okay, come back to this. You see authentication protocol is just host lookup. So if you want to lock that down for the allow protocol to host, just host lookup, you can do that too. This is authentication result, which includes the radius attributes and Now here we have the name of the DACL that got pushed, as well as the profile name, which is IP phone. It even knows it's a 7960 phone, and I would assume they probably got that from the CDP output. Okay, so what about, let's take a look at the phone one, the access point one rather. So access point output should be very similar, but it matched a different authorization rule that we created, and did use our authorization profile called LMAP. We know that because they got the correct DACL. It got profile to 1130. And here it matched our wire map for authentication, and then for authorization it matched the LM wire map AP. Okay, very similar. And for AP, let's confirm that it now actually have access to the wireless LAN controller. So we're going to log into the wireless LAN controller, and looks like we already have the AP registered right here, LMAP1, and the IP is 64.33, and if you look at the port, it is a 64.33. Okay. Now the last one that we were waiting to come, okay, there you go. So it already came in after we kind of fixed the statically configured MAC address. Now we have the MAC address under the identity group LM unknown OS, and it already passed authentication. So go back to the switch and look at port 19 now. Port 19 is in auth success state. We got DACL of LM permit all. Although the IP is still unknown, but the map authentication has already succeeded. So let's go in and take a look. Okay, this is our PC. So we'll log in. Looks like that still hasn't gotten the IP yet for some reason, so we can try and disable and enable. Now it's doing that. Here's the authentication output, authorization profile. I got the LM permit all. Again, it's a allow protocol host lookup. And we use the default network access allow protocol, LM permit all. So it looks just like the access point, but this one is belongs to the unknown, LM unknown OS. Okay, so this is one is a true. Okay, if you look right here, it said it matched the default rule for the internal endpoint, and then it looks up the MAC address of the host and it found it. So it says found endpoint in internal endpoint ID store because we could manually configure that. And that's why it passed the authentication. So this one did not rely on the profile, since we assume ISE is not supporting that particular device. So we did the static MAC address and eventually went to the radius access accept. Okay, let's try that one more time. Okay, it looks like this time it got an IP 64.32. So if you go back to the switch, look at the port right here, 64.32. Okay, so we're trying to ping 172.1632.64 rather, .32. You can ping that no problem. On the other hand, if you're trying to ping, let's say, access point, which is 33, you can see we're not able to ping that, and this is because we do not have permit ICMP on the DACL LM WLC only. Again, just to show you the access point for LM WLC only, all we allow is DSCP, DNS, wireless LAN controller, and that's why it got denied. Oh, that's too bad that there's no ACL counter that you can actually look at here. Okay, now that we have actually succeeded at the authentication, let's go back to the endpoint page. Let's see. So endpoint, and take another look at, let's say, access point, and see if there's additional information it has gathered since the beginning of our video. So now authentication is radius. Obviously, before early in this video, when we look at this, it said unauthorized. But now we passed the authentication, so the output looks a little different. Right here, I said authenticated. And you can see some radius accounting information that it receives once it passed the authentication. So it's part of internal endpoint, MAC address, we already had that, IP address, type of endpoint, again, radius probe, the exact switch port, the device connected to, device name, the radius reply attribute, I believe, since it contains the ACL and the group. The authorization profile that receives, so again, additional information since we passed the authentication already. Use case host lookup, VLAN name, it even tells you the VLAN name or VLAN ID that's on, VLAN name 1, and that's probably based on the SNMP query on the switch. And then again, CDP, some additional interface information, interface index, speed. So you can see we got a lot more information since the start of our video here. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is what happened if you go ahead and delete the device that we manually configured. So again, let me clear screen, run the debug auth and then locking console. So that's ready to go. So let's now trying to find the, here you go, statically configure MAC address. We'll click on that, and then we go, actually what I want to show is, let me go and do cmd ping, let's say ping internet. Okay, let me have a continuous ping going. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and delete selected. Ask it to confirm and said yes. Alright, mark it right here, client deleted. Go back to the monitor page, refresh. I can see something went out, or there's some change, and that's a COA, change authorization. Let me go and stop that. And then we'll take a look at the output. And if you go back to our, looks like it came right back though. So let's see. I have to see about that, why. This will tell you right here. Oops. First, let's take a look at the switch and look at the latest state of the show authentication 19. So authorization fail. Still have the IP address. Not too sure why still have internet, because it looks like it got disconnected momentarily there. Stop that. Yeah, it looks like as soon as we deleted the device, it got disconnected from the network. Let's take a quick look at the port. Oh, that's because we have the ICMP any. I guess the better test was actually to go to a website. Okay, so you can see it's trying to connect to google.com and is not able to. Okay, so essentially the client has been disconnected from the network, and you can see as soon as we deleted it, there's a COA, change of authorization. So this is a great example of change authorization. So basically, ISE is the one that's telling the switch to change the status of the port from authorized to unauthorized. Okay, and if you look at the switch output, let's see if we can find where we marked it earlier. Let's find, I believe the port was delete. Okay, right here, client delete all from platform. So receives internal event delete all, and it put the port back into an unauthorized state. And we saw that as a result of the output right here. Is authorization fail. Okay, and clearly the client has no internet access now, although we allow the ping. Okay, so as you can see, that ISE relies on information provided by endpoints, and there's nothing to stop an, for example, unauthorized user from fooling ISE by sending all these, for example, bogus informations pertaining to be a device that they're actually not, just to get on the network. So this is particularly true for things like MAC address bypass, since it doesn't really protect you from MAC address spoofing. So if somebody knows or get a hands on the list of your authorized MAC addresses, so it can basically pretend to be any of those MAC addresses. So if you're planning to use profiling and maps for your network devices, make sure that you only grant just enough access for the particular device to get on the network to minimize the risk of exposing your network to an unauthorized user. Okay, so that wraps up our video on Cisco ISE profiling, probing, and MAC address bypass. Thank you for watching LabMinutes.com. I'll see you guys in the next video.